Hey, welcome. You know that tight feeling you get in your chest when you're worrying about the future? Yeah, we all do. Today, we're going to dive into a really powerful spiritual solution for that exact feeling. We're drawing on some ancient wisdom that, honestly, offers a pretty clear path away from all that anxiety and towards a genuine sense of peace.
So let's just start with a question that gets right to the heart of it, shall we? Can any one of you, by worrying, add a single hour to your life? The sources we're looking at today pose this simple but incredibly powerful question to completely reframe how we even think about anxiety. The answer, of course, is no. So, what are we doing?
Right. So if worrying doesn't actually work, if it adds 0 hours to our life, then what are we all so busy doing? Let's break down what these texts identify as this universal problem we all get tangled up in, the cycle of worry.
It's kind of wild how timeless these worries are. I mean, look at this list. The sources point to the exact things we still stress about today. What are we going to eat? What are we going to wear? And that constant nagging anxiety about tomorrow. These aren't new problems. They're the fundamental anxieties of just being human, and they're just as real now as they were thousands of years ago.
And here is the core insight, the real game changer. Worrying about tomorrow doesn't solve a thing. All it does is steal the peace from today. The message is to ground yourself right here, in the now, because as the text so wisely puts it, each day has enough trouble of its own. Let's just deal with today's stuff today. So, if our own anxious thinking is what creates the problem, where on earth do we look for the solution? Well, the sources suggest we look outside of ourselves, out into the natural world, for a really profound lesson in trust. This is such a beautiful analogy. The text just says, hey, look at the birds. Seriously, they don't plant seeds, they don't build barns to store food, they don't strategize or hoard, and yet they're always provided for. And then it turns that question right back on us. Are you not much more valuable than they? The point is to start trusting in that same provision that cares for all of nature, and by extension, you. And the imagery just keeps getting better. From the birds, we're asked to consider the flowers. They don't work, they don't stress, they just grow. And yet the text says that not even Solomon, in all his splendor, was dressed like one of these. I mean, wow. It's this powerful picture of a beauty and provision that flows so effortlessly from a higher source, something our own anxious efforts could never, ever replicate. But you know, this isn't just an abstract idea or a nice thought. The texts shift gears here. They move from these general lessons from nature to a deeply personal promise of a real inner transformation. And that promise gets intensely personal. The language describes this incredible internal change, starting with this metaphor of a hard, stony heart just being removed and replaced by a heart that's full of simple faith. That's a change you can actually feel. And the promise just keeps unfolding, offering this sense of complete and total liberation. You're no longer a prisoner of pain. I've shaken the dust from your hair. What a powerful image, right? Just being cleansed from all the old hurts and burdens. And finally, this whole sequence ends with this profound feeling of safety and guidance, the promise of being illuminated by a divine light and surrounded by an impenetrable shield. It's a message of ultimate protection against fear, against the darkness. Okay, so this promise transformation sounds absolutely wonderful, but how do we actually get there? How do we access it? Let's get practical and look at the clear path to peace that's laid out in these texts. The path really begins with a fundamental choice: what or who will be your master? The texts lay out this stark contrast between devotion to earthly treasures, things that rust and decay, and devotion to spiritual treasures. One path leads to inner darkness, the other to a life that's full of light. It really all comes down to where you choose to place your focus and your trust. So this shows there's an active role for us to play here, and it's broken down into 3 key actions. First, you have to actively seek a spiritual path. Second, you consciously store your treasures, not in temporary things, but in what is eternal. And third, after you've done your part, the final step is to pray and trust, to fully surrender the worry and the outcome. Following this path, according to the texts, leads to a completely new reality, a whole new way of being. So let's take a look at what embracing this new life actually looks like.
And the result is described in these incredibly personal, affirming ways. This isn't just some internal feeling, it's a visible change. A rejuvenated soul, a spark of courage in your eyes, a smile that looks so good. It's an invitation to see yourself through this new, transformed lens.
And this new reality, it extends beyond you. The promise creates this tangible sense of hope for what's coming next. Using this beautiful image of a rain of blessings, just about to pour into your life, bringing with it this true sense of abundance and joy.
And all this wisdom leads to one final powerful question aimed directly at you. The promise on the table is that the most beautiful days are about to begin. The only question left is, are you ready to enter this door? Thanks so much for joining me today.